Well, this warmer weather is supposed to be the perfect time to get outside and get that yard looking gorgeous, right? Pulling the weeds, mowing the grass, trimming the bushes. But sometimes it can be hard to find the time or even the energy to maintain a perfectly manicured lawn. Don't get discouraged. In today's Angie's List report, 3 simple tips to a healthy summer lawn.
The grass can be greener on your side, but it takes some hard work and dedication.
Lawn experts tell us there are 3 easy things you can do to keep your grass looking great.
First, trimming your grass as short as possible may seem like a good way to save time, but lawn experts say you're creating more work in the long run.
If you're going to cut the grass real short, from a distance, you're not going to see as much leaf blades, so you're not going to get as much color. The grass is going to be thinner, so weeds can pop up a lot more. And the sun is going to come down to the soil and dry out the soil more.
Lawn care pros say you never want to mow your grass shorter than 3 inches, and you should never cut more than 1/3 of its total height at once. Adjust your mower height, let the grass grow a little longer between mowings.
The higher you can mow the lawn, especially during the summer, it's going to look a lot better.
As far as when to mow the lawn,
the ideal time to mow is when there's less stress on the turf. So that's either going to be early morning or late afternoon into the evening, but ideally not during the heat of the day.
Step number 2, when it comes to your summer lawn, stop drenching it.
If they have sprinkler systems where they're turned on to where they're watering, say 15 minutes every day, what happens is when the sprinkler comes on, you're wetting the turf first. Then it works its way down to the base, and then when you start to get into watering the actual dirt, the system shuts off.
A general rule is to water 1 inch per week during the active growing season. To determine watering depth, place an empty tuna can near your sprinkler and let it run until the can fills with water. Overwatered grass appears yellow or light green, and you might notice dark green or brown veins in the leaves. It's best to water in the morning to help prevent disease by reducing the amount of surface water on the leaves. Step 3, properly fertilize your lawn. It's important for healthy, lush growth, but if you apply fertilizer incorrectly, you can quickly turn your lawn from green to brown.
We use dry, slow-release products all year long because we want to slow feed the turf. The granulars fall to the base and goes directly to the root system. Whereas when you spray liquid fertilizer, you're going to coat the leaf blades of the grass. Then if you mow or whatever, you're going to mow that off.
Perhaps you've tried everything when it comes to getting a gorgeous green lawn. Angie Hicks, founder of Angie's List, says it might be time to start over. The answer to your lawn problems could be that you're doing too much, and it may be time to hire a professional. Just make sure you know what you're doing.
When hiring a professional to help you with your lawn, remember it's a process. It's not something that happens overnight. And honestly, a red flag is a provider that tells you they can fix it overnight.
Angie says you want a company that will inspect your grass before starting to work on it. Make sure they really understand your grass type so you can be on your way to a luscious summer lawn.
Now, when it comes to mowing cutting the grass, Angie's List says you want to keep a sharp mower blade for a nice clean cut. Now, that means you're going to need to sharpen your blade about 3 times a year, once in the spring, once in the summer, and then finally in the fall. Lisa?
Well, Jimmy, another way to make your yard look beautiful is with roses. And some of these roses are not only beautiful, but they're so fragrant. So joining us today to show us how to add them to our yard is gardening expert Ginny Rosenkranz with the University of Maryland Extension Office. Happy Monday to you.
Thank you. Happy Monday to you, too.
You know, smelling these roses, it takes me back to when I was a kid and my mother's roses. And there's certain types that give you that old-fashioned fragrance.
Absolutely. Apparently the dark pinks and the red ones have that traditional, wonderful old rose fragrance, whereas the yellows, they can have all kinds of different fragrances, sometimes even like a bowl of fruit.
Really?
Absolutely.
So what are they specifically? What are their names?
Well, some of the old roses would be like the damask rose, the galactic rose, moss rose, and cabbage roses. These are the old-fashioned ones with lots and lots of petals, and the fragrance.
So what kind of sun do we need to grow the best roses?
They love full sun. So
Yeah.
that would mean from sun up to sundown. A lot of people say, well, what if I have at least 8 hours? That's kind of a minimum. But the more sun, the happier they are.
The happier they are.
Yes.
Now, in my front yard, I have a lot of sandy soil. Is there a certain kind of soil that roses like?
Sandy soil is fine, but you are going to need to augment it because you're asking them to not only give you foliage, but lots and lots of flowers. So you do want to add a lot of compost and fertilizer, and you want to keep it watered. That's really important too.
Okay. Now, when I plant my roses, the hole that you plant them in, it has to be pretty wide, doesn't it?
Yeah, not really deep. It only wants to be as deep as the rose roots are. But you want to have it really wide because you want to augment the soil with all that wonderful compost and the fertilizer and all that. And that gives a wonderful growing area for those roots to grow out and get established.
Yeah, and you mentioned watering, and you
Yes.
just mentioned fertilizing.
Yes.
So how much? How often?
Well, when you first plant a rose, the first year is so critical because you've got to get it established. So at least twice a week the first week, especially if the temperatures are like say under 90. Once the temperatures get to 90, you want to water them at least 3 times a week, and well over 85 at least.
85.
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
So if it's hot outside, you want to water them a lot.
If it's hot outside, you want to drink of water. So do your roses.
Is there a difference between, okay, so I like to cut my roses and bring them in and put them in a vase. Is there a difference between cutting the roses and just pruning them for health?
Right. When you prune a rose in the springtime, you're going to prune it so that you're going to get rid of all the dead, but you also want to prune it so there's like, if this was the rose bush, I would want to have a bowl of sunshine. So I would want to prune out what's inside so that the roses can grow out and get lots and lots of sun from all angles. But if you're going to cut a rose to bring inside, you want to go ahead and do it early in the morning when all the sugars are there, and go ahead and cut it so that you get to at least the first section where you have 5 leaves instead of the 3 leaves. Bring it inside, and then you want to cut it again under a bowl of water or a glass of water so that the first thing that happens after you cut it is water goes up the stem. And that keeps it hydrated and gorgeous.
Is there a certain length, like 3 inches, 2 inches?
Well, it depends, of course, on how vigorous the rose is growing. I mean, my friends who are rose growers, they can go ahead and have roses that are a good 12 to 18 inches. Not so much, Jenny.
Yeah, yeah.
Mine are a little bit smaller, but you do want to make sure that they have at least the 5 leaves, and that'll give you a good size at that
Now,
point.
we've seen a lot of roses in bloom, their first cycle, I guess. So
Yes.
would now be the best time to prune your roses?
Yeah, actually, most of the roses bloom from the middle of May to the 1st of June. So this is the second bloom that we have here. And yeah, it's a good time to go ahead and evaluate how it's growing and take a look at it, and then prune some more.
Yeah, bring them in so you can get these beautiful. I wish you could smell
They're
this.
fragrant.
It is very fragrant.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ginny Rosenkranz. Love these flowers, very beautiful. And for more gardening tips from Ginny, go to WBOC.com and click on the picture at the top of the page. The cap, the gown, the class ring, yep. It's graduation time. Perhaps your senior has already crossed the stage. Perhaps the commencement is coming up soon. Well, up next on Delmarva Life, the stories of 2 men who had to wait longer than most to finally get their hands on their sheepskin. We'll be right back.